before we start, how many of you are currently selling products on Amazon? And how many of you are feeling the influence of Amazon? Yeah, I think we probably all are. For you or the brands that you're representing, it's probably the fastest growing sales channel. It's also probably the fastest growing advertising channel. It sits in this weird place that can be a struggle organizationally, where your sales team has been dealing with it for 15 years, and now your marketing team is starting to be really excited about it and talking about it. It's been entirely unavoidable, right? Especially since the last earnings report, when it came out that it's just growing so quickly. And earlier this week, the reports were coming out that it's actually passed oath as the third biggest digital ad platform in the US. It's completely got its tentacles everywhere. You're working with it, you're planning with it. You've probably learned, as Josh pointed out, that they may be working on a private label competitor to you. They may be promoting that private label competitor to you. It can all be a little bit scary, but you need them. The way they've been going, the way they're interacting with the consumer, it's almost impossible to avoid Amazon. So we actually have some really interesting panelists today. They represent different areas of their companies. Amazon impacts them in different ways, and I think we're going to learn a lot today. So we'll start with Doug. Tell a little bit about yourself.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Doug Chavez, head up e-commerce in North America for Geometry Global, which is part of WPP. I've been on the brand side, so your story about, guess what, Amazon's making a product that you sell is interesting. So I most recently was at Banana Republic running digital marketing there globally, and lo and behold, in one of our meetings, there are 4 shirts on the wall made by Amazon. Previously, I'd worked on the brand side at Del Monte Foods, so pet was a really big brand for us, and whether it's a Milk-Bone-like type product, there are lots of folks making dog snacks that just pop up out of nowhere. So it's interesting.
Hi, Krista Rumfola, Director of Marketing e-commerce at Happy Family Brands. As of this year, Happy Family Brands is the #1 organic baby food company in the United States, so we're very proud about that. What I focus on is our D2C channels and also our digital marketing.
Cool. And I'm Kenneth. I'm the head of e-commerce for Premier Nutrition. So we have quite a few brands like Premier Protein, Power Bar, and again, we are a protein company, so similar to Alexandra, I need to have a chat with her later. Non-competitive, of course. And also what I do is really to think about the strategy in terms of driving conversion and sales for all our brands within the online channels. So really thinking about the very last point of touch for our consumer and making sure that starting from content marketing all the way down to sales and promotional tactic, how do we get them into the basket? So that's me.
Excellent, thanks guys. So let's start with the obvious question, the big question. Steve, in the introduction, referred to Amazon as a frenemy. What word would you describe your relationship with Amazon? How do you think about them, Kenneth?
So I'm lucky enough to kick off this part, so absolutely good there. Partner. So I know a lot of talking about it being quite an enemy and everything. I still see them as a partner, and really there's 3 key things why. First of all, they can help us drive our penetration. Thinking about how we've seen the growth that has come upon when we start selling on Amazon, they could grow our business by 100 times. I'm not talking about 30, 40%. I'm talking about quadrupling 10 times, 20 times your business. And that's all behind penetration driving. Like, they share enough data for us to know that, to see how many new users are coming in. So that, to me, is a really strength of theirs. And therefore, I really see them as a partner. Now, in terms of how they do it, it's a lot about their automation and personalization. Again, we spoke a lot about it earlier. I'm leveraging their technology. I'm leveraging their algorithm because let's call it for what it is. We are a scrappy enough of a business to not be able to own all the data. Data management, big data, like mining, and really putting it together for us, we are just not there yet. So we are leveraging them there. So that's really how I see them as, being the partner for us. I know it's going to be an argument very soon. So that's sort of the first part. And then the second one is advertising. So again, because of the data that they sit on, they don't share it. Let's just call it for what it is. You just need to learn to be okay with getting only enough data for you to feel good, but they are not going to share everything. So, but they do really do well in terms of what they call IM and LS, so in-market and lifestyle targeting. So they will share with you exactly how you can speak to the correct people. Again, I'm focused on low funnel. So I want to know that, hey, are they buying the protein shakes? Are they buying a protein powder? Or are they buying multivitamins? Is there actually a correlation to our products? And they can actually give you enough data to get there. So to me, partner is certainly well started.
So Doug, would you agree with that, especially from the data side? I know that you're working with clients that have very varied data needs.
Yeah, you're right, they are a partner. But not every partner CEO says that your margin is his opportunity. So
That's Jeff Bezos, by the way, who says that.
oh, is he
He's
the
not a
CEO?
partner.
Okay, I wasn't. Thank you for the reminder. So no, you're right. They are a partner, but I think you have to. They're an incredibly smart and fast-moving partner, and I think as whether you're a first-party seller or a third-party seller, you, especially first-party for the clients we work with, you really need to understand the data. So to your point on data is crucial. So data is the lubricant that runs that platform. So as a seller, I think I see a lot of head nods in the room. You have to know your data as well or better than Amazon and in a very fluid manner on a daily basis, depending on what you're selling. So yeah, absolutely a partner. There are a lot of things they can do for you. I mean, the fact that the vast majority of searches for products start on Amazon is one reason why you need to show up on their platform, right? So absolutely from a partner perspective. From a data perspective, looking at the insights you can get along the purchase journey and leveraging that to update your product, to make sure you're showing up in the right place within the platform, and then making sure you're understanding the data to win the buy box if someone else is looking at a competitive protein product. So those are all things that are really important. But I think the piece you have to keep in mind is, especially if you have a product that they can encroach on, is how do we position ourselves? How do we make our product and our positioning much better from a brand perspective to keep them at bay from creating a product of their own?
One of the things I see coming up very frequently in discussions on Amazon, especially on LinkedIn, is the exact concerns about the data. And I've seen a lot of dialogue, often around smaller sellers, that you shouldn't be partnering with Amazon. It's all about the data. Amazon's going to steal your data. Kristen, I think you've got an interesting perspective here because you're really more working on the brand website, which is amazing. Do you have any concerns about the data that the Amazon team is sharing with them, whether it's around marketing plans or the product pipeline?
No, I think what we always try to do as someone that works on the media space within my business, I partner with the person who manages our Amazon to always push Amazon on what we can actually do with advertising. So I think with us sharing our media plans or strategies, ultimately it gives us more leverage to push them to offer more. No matter what you do, there's always going to be the Amazon shopper. You could say to someone, hey, I'll buy it for you and ship it to your door and personally deliver it to you. And they're going to be like, I kind of want to still purchase on Amazon. So the biggest thing is you have to be on Amazon. In what capacity is somewhat under your control. But I think because you're going to have a presence on Amazon, just accept it and figure out ways to leverage their data, leverage their partnerships. And I think a lot of that comes with sharing, have a closer relationship, because the only way to push is to give them insight into what you're currently doing.
Can I add on to that a little bit? But also, there is one thing that working with Amazon gives you a very deep insight of them. They don't care about you. Let's go for what it is. Be it you're a media partner, be it you're a supply partner, I came from Reckitt Benckiser, where we spent a lot of money with Amazon. We get to go to their global programs, which you pay a lot of money for, just FYI. But this is kind of how they are. They're all about, they're not symbiotic. They are very clear, they're there to just take your money, and they'll be very happy doing that. What you need to know and what you need to learn is that how do I leverage those things that will work to my benefit. So for example, going back to content marketing, like when you develop your products and you put it online, the reviews will come in automatically. And again, you start with the most important thing to any kind of CPG company, having a great product. And when the reviews come in, it's an algorithmic direction where they see, wow, your reviews are growing really quickly. Like our product, Premier Protein, when I started last year with the company, we started with 300 reviews. Now we are close to 1,900. How much did I spend there? 0. So speaking about ability of them driving those things, and again, those are true content marketing. Those are true information. UGC is the most talked about 2 years ago. It's kind of gone down the drain now, but user-generated content. People love those shit. And people will just kind of come to the site and go like, hey, that's why people are going to Amazon first to search. They want to look at what you, as the rest of the people who are using it, feel about the product. You can't buy those things. So to me, that's where Amazon and content marketing does actually come into the picture, and they're actually quite owned rather than earned.
Can I add something with that? You made me think of something too, where search results. So if someone searches directly for your product and you're on Amazon, they can see right then and there their ratings. So they might be in store, maybe considering to go to your website, whatever, at that point of like purchase, and utilizing like Amazon's reviews from an organic point of view is very powerful.
What I like about this conversation is it gets back to the point to think about the trickle-down economic effect of what we're here to talk about, which is the Amazonification of selling, really. And so what it's made everyone in this room and everyone who's watching on the stream think about is you think differently about content marketing. You think different about your about search from a retail perspective. So all of these things have made everyone that's involved in this business better and more critical of what you're doing. And it's changed the dynamics of the roles of people at Reckitt or at D2C brands, or it's created a whole world of digitally native brands who have looked at the Amazon from a data perspective to understand what they're searching for. Let's go create products based on that. So yes, what Amazon has done has really disrupted how things are sold, how things are shipped, but it's also created a lot of opportunity. Why? Look at the data. So that's the big piece. That's why I say, as a retailer, as a brand marketer who is tasked with e-commerce, you've got to become an expert at data. You don't need to be a data savant. I mean, hire some really good analysts, but you've got to know your data inside and out. Depending on what you're doing, the cadence may be daily, it may be weekly.
I think too with data, where there's a lot of question around third-party data, how accurate it is, how much are you getting out of it, unless you have really strong KPIs that you're tracking on your website and tying directly back to media, which is time-consuming. Not everyone can do that from A to Z. One thing that we can say about Amazon is they're very thorough and they treat their company with the highest standards. So when they tell us it's first-party data, I believe it. So I would say it's another way to have access to first-party data without having to be a huge investor. And they also have in-market data. So if you're trying to reach someone who's purchased a specific product or purchased a product that's very similar to someone who would purchase your product, you can easily leverage that first-party data, in-market data. And it's just a way to have more confidence behind your data and behind your media and your advertising. And then like in my core, I know that if they're saying it's an in-market person who's purchased this type of product, I believe it. And I know that if we put an ad in front of that person, like we're actually reaching someone who probably wants to see our ad and who we can give value to. So I think it also makes media and advertising a little bit more legitimate, especially in a world where there's so many different data sources.
Actually, that's a great point. Can I jump in? Sorry, Will.
No, it's a good conversation, trust me.
I feel like Will was like going, I thought we've preempted saying that I ask a question, you answer one. And then he's like, I haven't asked a single question. Sorry, so on data and also how to utilize them, I think we did a really cool partnership with our media agency experts, and it's really showcasing how when we're launching a new product, how the different segments on the search terms and seeing exactly to that. So you can start looking at the data and seeing what are the people who are buying, because in the end, you have a hypothesis. You always have a hypothesis on who's the correct audience, but what's better than to actually test it against people when they're in aisle? Because that's exactly what you're doing. When they type in things like protein shake, they are in aisle for a protein product. And when you put the correct advertising, like talking about AMS, you've got your sponsored product, you've got your headline search. Those are literally your, call it in-store end cap and all your media, shelf-in aisles, your displays. Like, try to translate your shopper marketing thought process back to your digital shelf. They are actually like-to-like comparison. Like, headline search and sponsored products are effectively, call it your promo tickets and your end caps. So if you do that and then do the same test and learn, and when experts did the test with us, we truly saw a lot of new insights on how consumers are actually buying our products. And without sharing too much, it actually gave us a lot of growth.
So let's talk about that for a minute, right? So, because we talked about this actually before the panel, we were just kind of kicking around ideas and things we've noticed. And there's a bit of ad stuffing going on, right? So
more than a little bit in the last few months.
Okay, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, there's a ton of it. And it's interesting because I think Amazon is such a data-driven company, right? And they're going to go and test and add stuff the living heck out of search ads, right? Until the consumer says, "Uncle, I can't take this anymore." So they always put the consumer at the center, right? You can't argue with that fact about how they run their business. This room and all of us we're in this business, so we're probably a little more attuned, probably too attuned to it, and so we have maybe probably a more visceral reaction to it than a typical consumer might. I don't know if that's the case or not, but from my perspective, I look at this and
It's like anticipation of something.
right.
Not great.
but it really is. They're like ad stuffing, and where's the tipping point of that? So they know their data. So if I'm looking at one of your competitors and they're buying that audience, they're going to show up. How do you combat that? That's a problem.
Let's actually dive into that a little bit more. So Amazon, for those of you that don't know, recently launched a lot more placements for search. So there are now sponsored products and more placements in the search results. There are headline search ads now at the bottom as well as the top. They're actually now sponsored brands because you can't call it headline when it's on the bottom. And there are also inline video ads that show up in the app. So when someone's on mobile and they search something, a video pops up. Have you guys seen this devaluing any of those placements? Are you concerned at all that you're bidding on a sponsored product and it may be at the bottom or in the middle instead of the top? Or do you continue to see the value and the growth that you expect?
I think it's inflation, right? They're driving up their rates.
You can also look at the performance, test out and perform, and if you don't see the results, then you know it's not working for you, and then you just have to be more aggressive. I will say, I do thank Amazon for giving another channel outside of AdWords where you can actually make an impact with search. So I think that's another big thing of them tying back to being a partner. It's one of the few channels where you can actually see what someone's searching and then show them your brand, and you have a little bit of control over it because it's all about how much you want to spend, how much you want to bid. So I do appreciate that.
As for me, I think it's really about having a very clear strategy. Because first of all, what's your KPI? Are you driving awareness? Are you driving click-through? Or are you driving ROAS, return of ad spend? So if it's all about optimizing towards sales, then no matter how much ad units out there, in the end, as long as they're delivering to the sales, we're good. Versus if it's all about delivering to impressions, the beautiful thing about the algorithm is that they'll never put the same item twice. However, what's really shit about them too is that they're also now bidding for third party. So third party and the first party could be selling exactly the same item, but then suddenly to the algorithm, there are two different ASINs, and then automatically you'll have duplication of the item. So it's not a foolproof thing. I think as a kind of supplier that's spending the money there, my first question is, do I have a very clear strategy on what I'm trying to achieve? And then going into the details of what's working. So we have a very strong ROAS drive on a KPI. And because of that, everything that we do, the cost is increasing. Let's go forward. The CPC is certainly increasing significantly. When we started investing 5 years ago, some of them were as cheap as below a cent. And now you'll never see anything under 10 cents. So certainly from inflation standpoint, 10 times, just like the growth you're getting from them.
Yeah, so to be clear, I totally agree. Having a clear strategy that you're executing on is important to winning on Amazon, right? But to your point also about ROAS, your ROAS is going to reach an apex at some point because of this ad stuffing that's happening.
And I think that's where the balance is very interesting because sadly, Amazon continues growing. And their growth, at least in CPG, because their share is so tiny. Like, I've worked in multiple countries on multiple companies, and not a single CPG company out there has more than 10% share on Amazon, at least from my personal experience. So when you only have 10%, the growth is just so much that, the Bayer of the world, the GSKs of the world, they're just going to continue investing there until, to your point, when we hit a plateau, what's next? And I don't think Amazon is down for it yet.
I think too with return, like it's not always about the return. If you have a product that could be a subscribe and save product, or you have, and Amazon will share that data with you, I think paying a little bit more for the first purchase, where you can get someone in like constantly with your cart every month. But then also Amazon's a great way to just have brand and product awareness. So sometimes it's not just about the return, it's about your overall goals. It's a very powerful tool with awareness as well. So I think depending on what kind of budgets you have and what kind of margins you're working with, you can also use it as another way to grow awareness of your product. And your competitors might not be thinking that way as well. So I don't think it's a commonly used.
And I think that's a good point, is you talk to so many brands that have their sales team running Amazon, and they're focused exclusively on ACOS or ROAS, and they're not thinking about the higher funnel, the more interesting branding plays, and using Amazon as a branding platform. But to that regard, and getting back to all of the fantastic data you guys were talking about, Amazon owns display inventory pretty much across the internet. You can drive that back to Amazon and directly to the PDPs, or you can drive it back to your own brand site. How do you guys balance that? Is there a strategy you're using for determining who you're sending where?
I think you can look at, it's each product or your brand that you are focusing on amplifying or making a priority. It all depends on like what that specific product or focus is. So for like product A, it could be we need to tell the world about our awareness. And so in that point, I think driving back to the website. For product B, we need to increase the sales, or we already have high awareness, we need to get trial and repeat. I think it would be going back to Amazon.
I think it's looking at your advertising plan from a bigger perspective. Like, how does the Amazon network play into that? How does a typical brand advertising partner play into that? And where you want to drive folks back to? Like, do we have a D2C plan, or is it purely just about selling, or is it awareness? Right. So I think you have to look at the different data sets, figure out what role they play in the larger campaign.
Yeah, I agree, Kristen, especially on the fact that each brand and each product format has such a different role. Like, if you're trying to drive penetration, I still think Amazon is not your best way to just drive awareness. I think they're a lot stronger to drive conversion. So as long as you're very clear what does Amazon sit at in terms of your conversion funnel, that will give you a lot more idea of where to invest. I still think it's going to be a mix.
Also looking at like what your products are. Some products require a lot of thought, and I'm thinking of baby food. Some products are like, it's a pouch, has enough of the stuff that we want, we're going to buy a pouch, an organic pouch. And some things that are a little bit more sensitive, someone might take a little bit more time to really want to like look it over, see what the benefits are, compare. Amazon's not a great place for that, like sitting through it and researching, but your website can be, so.
And then talking about the purpose of the website and helping your website flourish, Kristen, I know you've done some really cool things. How can a brand make sure that their brand.com is not only surviving in the face of Amazon, but getting attention internally and externally?
Yeah, I think it depends on the company. Right now, I'm very lucky to work for a company that has a brand story and following behind it. Sometimes you don't, and so I think the best thing to do is to evaluate what exactly does Amazon offer. Low prices, fast free shipping, we all know this. It's a big, giant, aggregated search tool. I used to work for a cell phone accessories website. It's like, as it sounds, it's not glamorous at all. And you put in $1 in advertising, you want $1 back in products. But I would say with that specific thing is like looking at, if you search for a cell phone accessory website or cell phone accessories on Amazon, you get a ton of results. It's not exactly what you want. So in that specific example is like actually give your customers, is this working? Actually give your customers the customization, different options, like look and see how, from your customer's perspective, what Amazon's offering them, and then make it better. From a brand point of view, when you have a following, like don't disregard that or ignore that. I used to work for Everlast, the boxing company, and I was tasked with starting like an e-commerce store, and everyone was like, they can get it cheaper, everyone else, Amazon.coms. We're just gonna have it, and actually exceeded sales by $1 million in our first year. And it's because we didn't actually realize our brand value and that people want to purchase directly from our brand. And then now at Happy Family, sorry, I'm taking a long time. Happy Family, you know, in the baby food space, it's very competitive, and also, like I said, with the pouch, if you can order it on our website, in store, at Amazon, they just want the product because it's something that they use day in, day out. So what we did is we looked at like what does Amazon offer versus what are our customers asking for, and all of our data comes back to that when we ask our customers directly is customization. And so what we did is we launched a subscription program that ties in the child's age versus meals and snacks that the parent will receive. So it's kind of like a sample box, it's a fun box, it's a subscription box. Amazon's never gonna do this. We didn't build it though because Amazon wasn't gonna do it. We built it because we listened to what our customers wanted and ultimately gave it to them. And because it's not a model that Amazon can ever do, you know, we have a competitive advantage for our e-commerce.
So I think basically to sum that up, you're finding the areas of Amazon that their strengths may be weaknesses where they can't dive in, and then going in deeply there. Customization, personalized boxes. Kenneth, is that what you guys are doing for D2C as well?
So funny enough, we actually have a totally opposite strategy. So the problem with us is we are products that you can find everywhere. So go to your Costco, go to your Walmart, go to your Sam's. So it's similar to Bayer where, you know, a very large chunk of our business is still somewhere else. So that becomes a question of what actually is e-commerce for us. So in Premier, the way we see e-commerce is more about driving the first-time usage, the conversion, the trial. So how we utilize that is to make sure that when people are thinking about our product, we are going to give them a plethora of solutions based on where they like to shop online. So what we have is more using technology like Market Track, where if someone clicks buy now, they will actually be given, do you want to buy it on Amazon? Do you want to buy it in Sam's Club, Costco, or Walmart, or Walgreens? Like, how we're trying to do it is more leveraging what you as a shopper personally prefer. And we still have a direct to consumer, but we don't, it's not a, going back to your point, if they want to buy it from a brands.com because they trust it more, it's there. But let's call it for where it is, the price will never match up. Because from a shipping cost for us, it's just way too high. We will never be able to get the rates where Walmart is, Amazon is. So, because we ship liquid, like protein shake, it's very heavy. So, change it for us.
I agree with that. Like, we're gonna add a buy on Amazon button on our website as well for purchasing individual products, because it's a win if someone purchases your product on your store or on Amazon or in store.
But I think the great thing about what you're doing with Happy Family Brands is you're looking at the insights coming off of Amazon to determine where and how the brand is relevant. And because there's a lot of, I'm not a parent, but there's a lot of consideration that goes into what I'm going to feed my child, right? And so how we do that, how you want to like get them to buy more products across their portfolio or things that they consider, they're learning that on Amazon, and they may come to the brand site to do that because they can't buy that boxed solution from Amazon. But at the same time, from a brand site, you also have a variety of reasons to send them back to Amazon for certain things because it's more efficient for you to do your business that way. So that actually is a perfect example of how I think you look at the data and create a plan around that.
And then shifting gears a little bit, one of the things that Amazon's been great at is lowering the barriers to entry, democratizing commerce in some ways, but you now have brands that in some cases are just white labeling a product they're buying on Alibaba, putting it on Amazon very smartly and nimbly, and suddenly eating up a lot of market share and getting attention. Are there things that you've learned from these challenger brands, ways that you've seen them operating that you've been incorporating into your own strategies?
Like Amazon white labeling products?
More a company like Elizabeth Mott in cosmetics or David Archie in undergarments, where it's just a small brand that's their only presence is on Amazon, or at least their initial presence is on Amazon.
So I think a great brand that's been doing that is in the headphone space. So Anchor's fantastic. How many people here have Bose headphones? How many people, keep your hands up, how many people have Anchor headphones or have tried them? Okay, interesting, right? So I don't have a pair of Anchors yet. I'm a Bose fan, and there's a bit of sort of brand loyalty there, right? So if I have my headphones for 5 or 6 years and I'm done with them, I'll take them back to a Bose store, get money towards a new pair. But the reality is, I will freak out if I lose my Bose noise canceling headphones on a plane. Like, I will go back to the plane. I'll do everything I can to get my headphones back because they're $300 headphones. Anchor comes out with headphones that are equal in quality, or so they say, right? I believe them, but they're not $300. They're like $100, right? So if I lost a pair of $100 headphones that are noise canceling, I'm less freaked out about that. But so that's just from a price perspective. I think what's interesting, what Anchor's done is look at their PDPs. They've optimized their PDP and their content. Bose is like Bose noise canceling headphones. Great. Anchor, noise canceling headphones, 10 hours of time, and all the attributes right up front in the search. Right? They're understanding the attributes of what makes, what people are searching for and making sure that's in the product listing and showing up in search results. That's incredibly disruptive, and Bose is still kind of going along on their path. I would love to see Bose fix that and do a better job of that because I'm a Bose fan. But brands like Anchor and others are disrupting this space because they're looking at the product attributes that are most important and designing products based on the search attributes. That is incredibly disruptive, and that's taking a lot of share away from Bose.
I think, to me, it's not just a private label thing. I think it's just going back to how you want to leverage the digital and Amazon as a way to talk to consumers. So, for example, Drink Buy, I think you guys know the buy drinks, antioxidant and everything. That just started as an Amazon-only brand. It was way before, this was before Justin Timberlake got all excited about that brand and everything, but they started on Amazon only. And just showcase again that Amazon is a tool that if you use it correctly, it can actually build a brand there. What I am very worried about, which we're seeing right now, is Amazon is taking that model and pushing it on just their own brand. So they've relaunched, or not relaunched, they've launched recently, and they call it the Amazon Accelerator Program, where if you work with them and create a unique product that's sold only to Amazon, they will feature you on a specific widget that just focus and promotes your item, and they are branded as Amazon own brand. So it still carries your brand. So like, for example, Premier Protein, it carries our brand, but then it will be advertised as Amazon own brand. And the placement that we are seeing right now is literally on search, like the first page itself, there's a whole widget for it. And even on the buy box, which is literally the holy grail of Amazon, they actually have a little widget saying that, oh, you're looking at a protein shake, have you considered these brands? So to me, that's where they're truly starting to overuse their data and cannibalize, like truly one-to-one cannibalization to us. It's like taking the LD model, like if you guys been to like, other countries, LD's model is all about direct comparison to brand leaders. So if you're looking at a dishwasher cleaner or something like that, they will literally do a one-to-one comparison to a brand and say, LD can do it better, except you only pay half the price. Amazon's doing that right now, and I think it's a very dangerous step because it will start turning us off from advertising there, because automatically you'll be like, I'm literally putting money, exactly to what was mentioned earlier. We're putting money for them to actually kill our business. So I think that's where it's starting to tip into a very dangerous zone, and I personally am still on a watch out zone and see how it goes, because the brands that are still, call it, they're not really well thought out, but the moment they start creating like Amazon Basics, like literally Amazon Basics battery right now is 90% of Amazon battery sales, and Amazon batteries are like 10-20% of the share of trade of the entire nation. So go figure out how much it's worth.
We need to leave a few minutes for questions. Does anybody have any questions of the panel quickly?
Hi, Richard Porter from Brooklyn Vintage. This might really be more for the agency guys, but I'm curious, as you think about retail media networks like Amazon, right? High margin, huge growth, taking a ton of digital share away from Oath, I think you mentioned, right? What do you think the future is of retail media networks? You know, we've got a few out there. There's a lot of verticals where we don't have them. It's kind of interesting. Amazon's the big mass player. In the history of media, the mass guys all got replaced by the vertical guys, right? So, you know, is there a retail media network or an alliance of retail partnerships or brands potentially, right? All the e-commerce or the lookalikes can all kind of create a consortium. I'm just, you know, in the world of Amazonification, you know, and it looks like no one can beat them, you know, is there a future there where maybe somebody's taking them on, and some of the mistakes they're making and competing so hard with their suppliers can be mistakes that other, you know, retail media networks might not make?
Yeah, I think from a media perspective, I have one of the driving principles I have is fish where the fish are. And if the fish are on Amazon, then that's where you got to go spend. If they're on Oath or they're on Google, then go there. Depending on what your product or service is, go where you're going to have the best audience reach that you're going to get, and then determine that to if they're somewhat similar, then it is a sort of a commodity cost and a CPM cost.
And building on that, I think with fishing where the fish are, that's why budget fluidity is important, rather than saying we're going to put X% to Amazon and Y% to Oath. Keeping it fluid so when the fish change, you can actually follow them. But as for other retailers, you see Walmart working on this. You see Target, Best Buy, they're all building things out. They're working on programmatic networks. Kroger's working on one. I think the alliance model is important, though. So if you've ever heard of Owner IQ, they're a company out there that is actually uniting a lot of these. So you can go in and take their data, and they've got an enormous amount of sales data from an extremely wide amount of retailers, and then you can use that for targeting. You can target against the lookalikes via it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there because Amazon may be the 800-pound gorilla, but when you start adding everyone else up together, they do have not as much weight, but a lot of weight. So we've been spending a lot of time with Owner IQ trying to build a little bit of a contingency so we're not as Amazon dependent.
I think one thing I'd add to that as well is I think this Amazonification impact or effect is it's forced other networks to clean up their act around viewability, right? So you know that when you buy on Amazon, you're getting your ad is class 2 ad is running on a brightly lit site, right? So the fraud issue kind of goes down.
Hey guys, Mike Martin with the Oracle Data Cloud. Question for you is, what data would you want from Amazon that they're not giving you?
I would say I would love to get the tie back to what you're advertising towards your website, and then ultimately someone goes to Amazon, like being able to tie all that together so you can see, I paid this and I got this kind of return out of it. Especially when you have, like, you're sending people from your website specifically to Amazon. We don't get that, so it's kind of like you pay this amount of money. Hopefully it worked.
So keep on doing your acquisitions of people like Crux and others.
I think they actually need to share more granular data on things like shopper stuff. So for example, like if you think about the panel, like, so they'll tell you your penetration, number of new users and stuff. They always give you percentage or indexed. They never give you absolute. Whereas you're like, hey, I've got my GA telling me I've got 400,000 people coming to my website every week, and I'm sending them to your site. You kind of need to tell me where these things are coming from, and they don't. So I think it's the granularity. But at the top line, they're actually giving a lot of things. Like if you guys or your clients have something called ARA Premium, they do have a lot of information there. It's just, it's not granular enough for you to truly do the deep dive. You can see trends, but you can't do a like-for-like comparison to that point, like point-to-point attribution. So that's true.
while Amazon's doing beta tests with pixeling other ads for attribution, multi-touch attribution is something that they don't have right now that would be very beneficial.
Will, panel, thanks. That was a great deep drill into this question. Thanks very much, Will.